So I always say, like, if you're going to do a referral thing, like, give them cash now. 500 to $1,000 is usually a good standard. First, the order of that, and what you'll find is, like, if you shrink the size of the ask and you show up with, like, a real plan, this is how I'm going to get you what you want, don't be surprised when people start saying yes to you. Single solo operator, usually your biggest constraint is either one of two places. Your biggest bottleneck is going to be you need leads and sales, or you're drowning in delivery. We are back. We are live. Good things happening in the world. I appreciate all you guys, by the way, who reached out on my little vulnerable post about losing my mojo a little bit and just being a tired fucking dad. I actually had a lot of tired dads reach out and tell me, like, they totally get it, they totally understand, and share, like, what they're going through. And I'm sure, you know, those of you guys have kids in general, the tired moms out there, you guys all get it. I've been really working hard on refining some habits and like, you know, I'm drinking lots of green juice to just feel better, and it's been a big help. Tell you one of the blessings, just a quick little announcement too, one of the blessings that's come out of all these challenges is a lot of people have told me, like, they know like how to generate business, but they don't want to do it. They don't want to grind. And I've had to sort of figure this out for myself. And so now, like, the next level is I'm rolling this out to the Wolfpack. So essentially, firstly, I think the way everybody else does outreach is inefficient because they mass message people, 90%, 80 to 90% who are not buyers anyway. We focus on going after the deal sources and then, you know, getting those people as allies. And so but the next evolution of the mastermind is I'm building a team of virtual assistants who will do all the grinding for you, and then you just have to show up and talk to an influencer who you've already done a couple of cool things. They know who you are, they know what you do, and you know, have 3 to 5 conversations a week, and not millions and millions, but like enough so that, like, you can dramatically move the needle. So if you guys are interested in that, I put a link for that below. I think it's the coolest thing ever. And, you know, the blessing that's come out of just being tired with kids, it forces you to think in crazy levels of energy efficient that you almost can't do otherwise, right? So that's what kind of like my journey has looked like for you guys. And I think there's going to be some amazing things that are going to come out of it for those of you guys who are interested. So if you're interested, check that out. And I put the link for you guys below. And other than that, let's get into the good stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Frankie Fihn proudly brings to you our weekly Q&A. It's hot as balls in Mexico. I'm sweating my ass off, just so you guys know. And it rained yesterday, which it only rains like sometimes, like, actually some years it doesn't rain at all. But we've had probably about 3 to 5 days of rain, and yesterday was one of them. So it's muggy as a motherfucker up in here, and it's usually desert dry. So firstly, we got our man Guy up. Guy, I'm not sure. I hope I'm saying that correctly. He says, anyone sold their agency, recommendations on best marketplaces to sell. Well, firstly, my man, agencies for the most part, do not sell on a marketplace. It would be cool if somebody made one. There's an idea for those of you guys, if you're looking for a niche, is building a marketplace to buy and sell agencies. Having said that, usually there are a couple of prerequisites you have to achieve, and this is not unique to agencies, but this is like true of any business that you want to sell that's a service business. Thing number one is it cannot be 100% like wholly dependent on the owner, because nobody wants to buy a business that's really a job in disguise. And if you're looking to sell an agency where you're an owner trapped in your own business, like it's going to be hard to do, because somebody will ask you to stay on 2 or 3 years to work for them so that they can transition away from you. So if you're looking to sell, generally speaking, you got to be at least at the $250,000 a year mark. You got to have good systems and processes, and or willing to create them. If you guys have reached that point, give me a message, because I do have people who can help you sell. One of my journeys behind the scene has been like organizing buyers. So for those of you guys who are interested in that, let me know, and I'll hook you up with some buyers if you're looking to sell an agency. Our man Johan says, what platforms could you recommend for posting to several social media accounts simultaneously, specifically Instagram, Facebook, YouTube Shorts, Twitter, TikTok, preferably a platform that could handle sub-accounts for clients? Johan, there are some tools that do that, like Hootsuite, but having said that, we don't use tools, and I'll tell you why. Is every social media platform has like a little bit different. Like some have a certain minimum title, some have a certain maximum. Like Instagram, for example, you can't write a really long post. On YouTube, it's encouraged, and for that reason, we were never able to like create one thing and distribute it in software because it would screw up for different reasons. So we just use VAs and simple like basic processes. I'm actually planning on, for those of you guys who are interested in creating your own content factories, at some point leasing our standard operating procedures, so you guys can just like plug in your VAs to do this and have step-by-step instructions. But I haven't found a tool that like does it as cool as a human being. So and the places where it needs input, we just use ChatGPT to fill those in. So like YouTube descriptions and Instagram descriptions and hashtags and things like that. Using those two things, we can actually make our VAs like crazy efficient, and I think it's better than software. Christina have a client that wants to send referrals to us and is asking about our referral fee. As we are a fairly new agency, don't have one in place. Any recommendation on some good options? Okay, so referral fees, just so you know, even like there's a tendency to want to pay them like a monthly recurring thing forever and ever till the end of time. And my advice to you is don't. For most people, like a tangible cash amount now is a bigger deal than like, I'll pay you 10% as long as the client stays. And they'll actually, even though they would make more money if a client stays for months and you pay them 10%, like $500 to $1,000 now is going to do more damage. Or in something of equivalent value, like I'll give you a brand new iPad, you know, blah, 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 something like that. Something cool that they wouldn't buy themselves. But like cash now, because they can see it, taste it, touch it, is totally different than a percentage. I see this now where like when people make offers, they'll say like, hey, I can get 10% more leads, or I can increase your lead flow 50%. And instead of just saying like, we can get you 10, 20 extra people a month, because you can touch and taste 10, 20 people, a percentage is like, it's an abstract thing for a lot of people. A lot of people are shit at math too, so they can't figure out what 50% more of what they're doing now is. So I always say, like, if you're going to do a referral thing, like, give them cash now. $500 to $1,000 is usually a good standardized amount, depending on what you offer. Obviously, you can go lower or higher depending on, like, how big or small the service is, but that's generally a good rule. Chris says, looking for some angles on this. I'm using Frankie Fihn's simple, ingenious approach for cold email, where I ask if they serve a certain kind of customer. This is for plumbers, so I ask, I see you do all installs. Do you also do service work? Shockingly, this only gets a 30% reply when sent to owners of plumbing companies. See below. I don't know how to transition well with an offer to help them generate more reviews, as I reached out to them because they have less than 75 reviews, are advertising on Google, LSA, and have been in business 4+ years. I feel the transition is too abrupt and therefore loses all momentum. Anyone found a way to get people to watch your video? An example below, dramatic demonstration, any feedback, welcome. So this is a thing, by the way, that I've seen over the years, is a lot of people, like, they can get people to reply to a message where they say, like, hey, do you do blank? And then they say, yeah, we do blank. And usually, by the way, like, this is the thing people struggle with, is they're trying to go to a sale in a single message and they don't realize how to do it. So I'll tell you how I do it. Firstly is, if you understand this deeper level concept, writing the messages will be easier, which is, I always say, give away the ideas for free and charge for the implementation. So when you're writing people, it's very simple. It's just like, I had a cool idea to help you get service installs. Can I share with you a little bit about how that would work? And almost always, like, they're going to say, yeah, okay, like, I'd watch a little video on that. Like, you know, not 100% of people respond, but a good percentage of them will. And so the value you're giving away is, I have a plan to help you get what you want. And so if you understand that, like, you just give away the ideas for free. In fact, I usually tell them how to do my exact system. And then the charge money part of it is like, hey, if you want some help to get this built, I'll just do it for you. But usually, like, that's how you do the transition. Is like, I got a cool idea for you. Are you open to hearing it? Almost always, if somebody shows up and says, I have a cool idea for you, are you open to hearing it about, like, a thing I want? They're gonna generally respond well, and that's how you make that transition. So, like, hey, are you interested in? Do you guys also do service installs? Great. I had an idea to bring you service installs. I'd love to, like, hand you 10, 20 a month or whatever. Can I tell you a little bit about what I had in mind? Josh says, so want to go after influencers, but I don't have agency history, case studies, testimonials, results yet to prove to people I can do a strategic partnership with. So this is a thing, Josh. I see this like when people are starting out or switching niches and starting over. Like, clearly fucking case studies help, right? Like, good case studies help. Anybody who tells you otherwise is full of shit. But what people get hung up on is the idea that you absolutely fucking need them. And I'll tell you, I found 2 ways around, like, that are very powerful about not needing case studies. Way number 1 is you shrink the size of the ask. So, like, if I was still doing SEO, which I don't, but my original offer was, like, work with me 12 months and I'll get you to number 1, but hopefully no guarantees. Google's kind of crazy, but I'm really good at this and I've done it for other people. Right? That's a big ask. Work with me for a year. If we're strangers and you got to, like, commit to me for a whole year. So I might just say, like, give me 1 keyword in 30 days. Right? Like, that's how I'd probably shrink the size of the ask now if I was still doing that today. And by shrinking the size of the ask, like, it automatically opens the door. And of course, when it works, they want more, right? And of course, you set it up so it's an easy win. You pick an easy keyword that you can rank for, that kind of thing. So that's way number 1, if you don't have case studies and testimonials. The other thing is to understand, number 2, is what do they even want from you? And it's not what people think it is. The only reason people ask for case studies and proof and testimonials is because they want to know that you can actually help them, and so they're looking for people similar to them that you've helped. Now, having said that, what I say is the biggest thing they're looking for is that you have an actual concrete plan. I'll tell you, I get pitched all the time about my YouTube channel from people who say, like, they message me and they go, I can get you more views and more subscribers and more. And I go, yeah, how? And they go, well, let's jump on a call and discuss it. And you already lost me because I don't have time to jump on a call. But if you said, like, well, check out this one video, right? Like, if we just changed the title to this and did that and blah, 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 I guarantee you'll go from, like, 3 to 1. Why don't you just try it? Right? Like, give me a little bite-sized piece of the plan. So this is the biggest thing missing from most internet or, like, most people in the agency space. So when they reach out to people, it's like a pay me and then I'll figure it out. But I always say, when you have it figured out, they'll pay you. So even if you're brand new, like, I'll give you an example of this, okay? I was talking to somebody recently. They started out as a web designer. Now, web design is competitive as fuck, and there's a bazillion people who do it, and they have no proof of concept. They have no other websites they've done for somebody. So to get their first client, they got a meeting with somebody face-to-face in their city, and in order to show up ready for that meeting, they actually, like, created a mock-up website, like, used a WordPress template, and, like, printed out some screenshots and said, this is what I want to build you. This is my plan. What's up, Hetty? So when they have a concrete plan, like, it doesn't matter that they've never fucking made websites before. It doesn't matter because, like, they can clearly show you what it is they're going to get done for you. And I think most people don't understand that is they wait for somebody, they're trying to wait for somebody to pay them, and then they figure out the plan. And if you reverse the order of that, is like, I have a clear, definitive plan. And by the way, it doesn't need to be a custom plan for everybody. Like, she can show that, it was a she in this particular case, she can show the same fucking website to everybody, right? Like, that's in that niche, and just change the name of it, right? But the fact that she has a plan is already further along than most people are going to get. So reverse the order of that, and what you'll find is, like, if you shrink the size of the ask and you show up with, like, a real plan, this is how I'm going to get you what you want, don't be surprised when people start saying yes to you. It's also, by the way, this is as a general rule where you're going to get the most objections about working together is in your plan. So if you're clear and upfront about that, you can also diagnose, like, you know, where their resistance and stuff is. So I hope that's helpful to you, Josh. Chris says, Frankie Fihn, so regarding deal sources, I'd be curious your thoughts on this. I sell a review generation software between $199 and $299 a month, targeting ideally HVAC and plumbing. Accountants, CPAs have a good number of small business owners in all niches that they serve, but payroll salespeople have small business owners they serve as clients, plus they have about 100 to 200 shares with CPAs to get them to refer. Happy to do it with payroll people too. Would be curious if you would approach CPAs one-to-one, or would it be more strategic to connect with payroll people instead, asking who serves HVAC, plumbing companies. Curious where you would spend your time building relationships, at what level. So I had planned to talk more about this in the next few days anyway, Chris, but you're spoiling the surprise a little bit, which is when we go after deal sources. The way I figured out deal sources, by the way, just so you guys know, is I always say, like, before I figured stuff out on the internet, I observed it first in real life. So I went to, I don't know, there's a 2-3 year period where I went to a lot of legal conferences and I'd meet with a lot of lawyers. And what blew me away is that a lawyer would spend like a couple $1,000s between the ticket to the event, the hotel, the flights, the time off, all that stuff. And they never just only bought that thing. They would hire a TikTok ads person. They'd hire this TV, commercial person. They would use this hiring agency. They would try this phone service. They might try a new SEO person, and they would always like buy things in clusters. And I would see the same people at events after like 6 months. You'd see them again and again, and they were always buying new stuff. They were always spending. They were just habitual shoe buyers and would be forever and ever till the end of time. And I started to notice that they fit into categories. And these are the 7 categories of deal sources that we figured out that work best. Is number 1 is the people who provide expertise. So this is like coaches, course creators, things like that. The second is the people who publish the information. So this can be like authors who write books. This can be magazines. This can be podcasts. We've also found that there are people who like create communities around these things. So there's somebody who's made the HVAC community and things like that, or the plumbing community. Facebook and LinkedIn, and sometimes they're in real life too, right? Like especially in like those kind of niches. The fourth place we found them is in industry associations, especially for those of you guys who work offline. There's a plumbers association, there's a injury lawyer association, there's a dentist association, and there's somebody who runs that and is responsible for like organizing that. We found the fifth thing is software and tools. Like there's people who sell software and tools to them, and they have like complementary businesses to your own. The sixth thing we found is events like conferences or meetups or workshops. There's people who sell, and those are usually the first place I go, because if you're trying to figure out everything that's being bought and sold in your industry, just go to the main conference and then click on the vendors or exhibitors, and they'll give you a list of everything. Like, why do you think people spend $5,000 on a booth to go to a conference? Because they're selling shit there, right? So everything that's being bought and sold in your industry, like conferences are a little bit of my cheat code. And then the seventh thing we look for is competing products and services, SEO, websites, Facebook ads, TikTok, Instagram, etc., etc. And so this is how we find those deal sources. We just ask ourselves, who in the industry is selling those things? Who sells the courses? Who sells the books? Who writes the books? Who runs the communities? Who runs the industry associations? Who makes the software and the tools for these people? And who puts on the events? And who sells all the SEO and things like that? And then what we do is we simply collaborate with those people and we create stuff together. And usually this is so counterintuitive to how most people do internet marketing, is most people are trying to like write a message that's going to get them to buy their shit or to sell it. But we just help them. We help them do what they're trying to do. So like an industry association, like I might just like have ChatGPT write a couple of emails that they can send to their list to sell their event and go, hey, I gave this to you as a way to sell your event. And they go, that's fucking amazing, right? Then they want you to just do more stuff for them. And then usually they get suspicious and they say, what do you want? And we usually say, well, we're interested in like being your referral partner when people are interested in what we do, that our name comes out of your mouth. By the way, this has happened to me twice where I massively blew up an agency with one deal source, and you can like literally make $1 million with one deal source. So if you have like 3 to 6, you're like literally fucking laughing. And this can be done intentionally, and it's not super hard. It's more work than sending one outreach message. So to your question, would I focus on CPAs? Would I focus on, what was the other one? Payroll people? If you think they're both a good fit, you got nothing to lose. Try them both, right? This is the cool thing about when you're going after deal sources. Like, I might send 3 messages to 10 messages a week. Like, I'm not like writing bazillion. Like, for example, right now, one of the messages I'm writing this morning is to Larry Kim, who, if some of you guys will know, is the founder of WordStream. It's huge for all the people who do Google ads. Like, I can write Larry a good message because I don't need to send 47 fucking messages, right? Like an hour. I'm just writing one message to Larry Kim this morning. That's it. That's my whole outreach is done. Larry Kim, right? So when you do that, like, you make the whole process easier. And again, if you show up as like thinking about I'm helping them and I'm serving their interests, you'll make everything a whole bunch easier. Will Wilson, my man, says, what's your mental process for solving bottlenecks in your agency? So there's an awesome book about this by Eli Goldratt, Will. It's called The Goal. He's the famous author of The Theory of Constraints. And just so you know, The Goal by Eli Goldratt is like one of the driest, hardest books to read because he uses all these factory examples. But he makes the point that in business, nothing operates independently, okay? And so what happens is if there's one constraint or one bottleneck in the whole system, it affects everything else. And so he uses the example in a factory. Imagine there's 5 machines. We'll call them A, B, C, D, and E. And machine A can make 100 parts an hour, and machine B can make 200, and machine C can make 300, machine D can make 50, and machine E is like a workhorse. It can make like 10,000 parts an hour. Well, it doesn't matter what you do in that system. The entire machine is never going to move faster than D because it can only do 50 parts an hour. And so until you solve the issue at machine D, and that's where you have to apply your creativity to. Sometimes maybe you got to buy a second machine D so double your output. Or maybe you can like move it closer to the last machine so it loads faster. Maybe you can put extra worker and helper there. So how I approach constraints in a business, and this is why I wrote about the 5 stages of agency growth. When you're a single solo operator, usually your biggest constraint is either one of 2 places. Your biggest bottleneck is going to be you need leads and sales or you're drowning in delivery. And then at some point, your bottleneck will move to hiring. And then at some point, your bottleneck will move to like managing that. And then at some point, like your machine will crash and you'll have to like almost rebuild it at scale. So the cool thing about in our business for solving bottlenecks is they don't hide that many places. Do you got leads? Do you got sales? Do you have like an offer that's converting? Do you have your delivery dialed in? Do you have people to help you do? And so my process for it is literally like I write down, by the way, if you're not sure what your constraint is, the easy question to ask yourself is like, what am I spending all my time and energy doing or trying to figure out? Because that's your constraint. And almost always like you have to get creative. So I just like get a pen and paper and think about everything I can do. I like literally will just write down every potential idea I can come up. And obviously like if you write down, 20 ideas, only like 2 or 3 of them might actually be good ideas. But that's better than, like what most people do, which is nothing. So I'll give you an example. Like I had somebody talk to me the other day. They said, they were talking about their agency and they said, I'm trying to get to 20 clients. And they said, with our onboarding process, we can only onboard 2 people a month. Now that for me sends off flashing alarm bells of like, why the fuck can you only onboard 2 people? So that's like machine D. That's 50 parts an hour. And if you're going to get to 20 clients in your roster of that person, it'll take you a year to get there if you can only onboard 2 people a month. So that's a sign to me that's a bottleneck. Like what are you going to do to fix that? I don't know like automatically what that is. Like maybe you're taking too long to get the information and you should just have a Zoom call with the client, or maybe you should use like a tool like Leadsy, or maybe it's like a bloated process and you need to like start eliminating shit out of it. I don't know what it is with like from the outside, but that's kind of my process. And this is the thing about an agency is bottlenecks never disappeared. Just so you know, they shift. So you start with like a leads and sales bottleneck and eventually you figure it out. Now you got a fulfillment bottleneck. And then sometimes it'll oscillate between the two because when you're fulfilling, you're not selling. And then eventually when you finish fulfilling, all of a sudden like you took your foot off the sales gas and you lose momentum. And then sometimes it'll shift to like, how do we bring in people? Like I struggled with years and years not knowing how to hire good people. And then eventually you have all these management bottlenecks where everything has to come through you for a decision and you have no processes, you have no systems for making decisions. And so you become the bottleneck. So how do you do it is like, I just start with like, where am I spending all my time and energy? Like what's the thing that's constraining me today? And then I get creative with like, the first question I always ask myself is who? Is there somebody, like, is there a person who could just make this problem go away? Like, if I could write a check and that person could make that go away. Sometimes that's an option, sometimes it's not. Then I go to, like, how could I eliminate that? But that's the basic process, and it's like, it's a never-ending thing, just so you guys know. I wish I knew this earlier on. There's never a point in business when you're free of problems. And I'll tell you where this comes up, Will, is I try and tell people, like, one of the things we talk about a lot about in the mastermind is going after bigger clients with bigger budgets. And people always think, like, oh, if a client has $10 million a year, they already got it all figured out. And it's the opposite. They have newer, different, bigger problems. Now they got to manage an Instagram, a Facebook, a TikTok. There's replies across accounts. A staff member just quit. Like, the problems get bigger, not smaller. So if you understand this, you'll embrace the fact that you got to like repeatedly address your bottlenecks over and over. Hetty says, about the new course, what is the niche of the new training? I don't necessarily know what you mean by the new course or what niche you mean, Hetty. So we'll have to talk about that a little bit privately. Who do we got now? Josh says, this post sums up where I find myself right now. Our agency is 5 weeks old, but I'm doing my agency for 9 years, and our parent company handles some of the biggest clients in Israel. I've sent out emails about RevShare as well as getting people more reviews for free. So far, one hand raised, talked to them once, haven't heard back. Followed up on Instagram and by phone yesterday. I feel like I don't have enough proof to make someone say, sure, let's give this a go. In aesthetics niche, basically all outreach was to doctors, except a RevShare I offered to an influencer to help him sell a course, no response. Partly venting, partly would love some suggestions. So this is a big thing that I see that comes up. Firstly, Josh, I understand the struggle and the frustration. I think we all go through a phase of trying to get lift off and it feels like nothing's working. And you're especially like, you know, I know what it's like to be in your shoes, but you're not like sitting idly by, you're messaging people and you're, you know, doing outreach and like it just seems to be going nowhere. They're like, it's not fun when you're in that phase. I call it the question your sanity phase. First thing is I want you to get rid of this belief that what you need is case studies. Okay, you can only work with what you got, and so if you tell yourself like I need something I don't have, remember I said earlier the two things people want most are like you know, like an actual plan and then shrink the size of the ask. Now, having said that, like there's lots of things that can go wrong in outreach with doctors, and the biggest one is you're not even getting the doctor, you're getting the gatekeeper. Like doctors don't generally check their own social media, so even the way you're outreaching to them can be flawed, which is why like I prefer, like when I'm going after professional types, I like to do direct mail because it gets past the gatekeeper. We use a service called Click to Mail do that, and they can send it anywhere in the world. It's usually $1 a letter if you do it in America. It'll be probably closer to $1.75 if you send it internationally. But there's a big reason. Second thing is, when you talk about doing RevShare deal is the opposite of like what most people do, which is begging for business. And you are the selector 1,000%. And so one of my mentors compares it to, imagine somebody like they're playing cards and they hold the ace of spades and the king of spades and the queen of spades and the 10 of spades, and you're playing poker and you have the jack of spades, and if you bring that in there, that's like the missing piece. So when you're going after revenue share deals, it's not about trying to convince any company. It's the opposite. Is you want to help winners win more. So like usually identify companies that have products, are selling it, are running paid ads, the shit is working, and I'm simply offering to bring them even more revenue. I don't do this like, so it's not a mass blast thing. It's like, who's the prom queen who has all the resources that we're going to go after? I'm not finished with that one. Okay. Sorry. The juice delivery has arrived. Thank you, Ilka B. So that's if you approach revenue share the way most people do outreach, and essentially a revenue share deal, like understand like you're the most desirable person because it's like, I want to sell your stuff for you, right? That's an irresistible offer. It's totally different. The difference between like when you're showing up as the buyer versus the seller, like I want to give you money versus I want to get you money are very two different conversations. Which is why, by the way, whenever, like you'll notice this in cold calling, is when people cold call and they say, when they're trying to sell something, they almost always use the script. They say, hey, my name's Frankie Fihn. I'm calling from company XYZ. The reason I'm calling today is because, and you already know, like, I got something for sale and I'm trying to get your money, even before I finish that sentence. And so, like, there's sales resistance. You'll notice customers, because they're trying to give money, don't feel the need to do any of that. They just say, what time you guys open till? Do you guys have it available in the blue? Is the special still on? Can I come buy this thing? You want to, like, when you're doing RevShare outreach, approach it more like you are the one trying to bring money and give money, and not like the one, would you be interested in this? Paul says, waitress service. Wow, I know, right? I'm spoiled. I'm definitely spoiled. My kids are spoiled too. So, That's the second thing. The third thing, and this is, I see this wrong in so many agency stuff, and I just had this conversation with somebody this morning, is almost always what keeps people stuck in messaging is they're selling what I call the hammer or the plane ride. And the hammer or the plane ride is the delivery thing that gets you there. So imagine, for example, one service is SEO, and SEO is a plane ride, okay? So if you think about when somebody gets on a plane ride, almost always like they're sick of the office, they're sick of the meetings, they're sick of the politics, they hate fucking driving in traffic, they hate the alarm clock, and they just need to get the fuck away. And they get on a plane ride, and where they want to go is the beach, the bikinis, the palm trees, the sipping out of a coconut, and those kind of things, right? And the worst thing you can do is sell on the plane ride and go, we have comfortable seats, and we're economic, and we have the best plane ride of quality in the industry. And that's what happens when you sell SEO. So the reason I tell you that, I'm just going to read your message once more to tell you where I saw it. When you say, I'm going to get you more reviews for free, nobody gives a fuck because it's a hammer, it's a plane ride. Hey, fucker, can I sell your shit versus buy my shit, fucker? Cole gets it. That's the difference. So, when you say, like, I want to give you reviews, the problem with reviews, like, if you think about, like, what I would call the hell, like, if you think about somebody at an office, driving in traffic, waking up to an alarm clock, doing the same boring shit every day, is they're not thinking about a plane. Like, if I say to you, we have the most comfy seats and blah, 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 they don't give a fuck. But if I say, hey, I got a plan to get you out of the office right now, and we're going to hop on a plane, and I'm going to bring you to the beach, to the bikinis, and the blah, blah, blah. And so you have to figure out, this is my way of saying, you have to figure out what problems the doctors are trying to solve and what outcomes they're trying to create. And usually, by the way, if you know the problems, you know the outcomes. Like, you know, Lana was telling me, somebody told him, hey, one of my yoga studio locations is half empty. Well, what do they want as an outcome? They want it full, right? Like, I want full classes, not half empty classes. So usually if you know the problems they're trying to fix, you know everything else. So this is why I say, I always put my symptom thing through two tests. Thing number one is I ask myself, how frequently are they likely to be thinking about this? You'll notice this, but whenever you're promoting a hammer or a plane ride, the answer is almost never, right? Like, how often do you think they think about their Google reviews? Once a month, right? What's up, Scott? Yeah, we're things. I'm on the bounce back path right now. That's like, you know, the resurrection is always the best part of the story. Some good nights of sleep, man. That'll change your life. Ilka was really awesome. Helped me sleep in this morning. But as far as the plane ride, like if we're selling Google reviews, like they don't think about Google reviews as frequently as you do. In fact, they don't even realize a large number of their problems are related. Why don't people trust them on the phone? Why don't they call them pre-sold? So you have to break it down to what are the problems of not having reviews that show up in their reality. And I'll tell you one that I was just talking about this morning is tire kickers. They get people on the phone who call them and say, how much is it for this? And then they hang up and say, okay, thanks, I'll call you back. And they don't call back. And they hate phone calls like that because it just interrupts the day for nothing, right? So if you have like a, hey, I can help more people call you pre-sold and never have to deal with these tire kickers again. And the way we do that is with Google reviews. Almost always the thing you sell is an afterthought to them. It's like, I'm going to help you solve this tire kicker issue using Google reviews. But they're not buying the reviews. They're buying the, hey, if I never had to have tire kickers and people just called me up pre-sold, that would like be pretty fucking life-changing. So biggest reason people struggle with those messages is because they're talking about the fucking plane ride and they don't give a fuck. Now, the second test I put myself through is how emotional is this issue likely to be? Because there's some things that like happen every day. Like I brush my teeth every day, but I'm not like super emotional about it. So if you pass any messaging you're through those two filters of like how frequently does this show up in their life and how emotional is it? If you nail those two things, you'll make your life so much easier. And if you don't know what that is, I put a training both in the Facebook group and on the YouTube channel. It's called The Unfair Sales Advantage. If you're searching on YouTube, you might have to add the channel name Beyond Agency Profits. But if you search the Unfair Sales Advantage, I show you word for word, step by step, how to get them to tell you in exactly their own language the very problem they're trying to solve. And then you simply put that into your message and feed them back. Most of the messaging, by the way, is parroting, not writing. Let me say that again, because if you guys really understand that, you'll write better shit that converts better. It is parroting, not writing. right? You don't have to sell your Google review, blah, 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 doohickey. You find the thing they're saying they're stuck on, and you parrot it back to them. Almost always, by the way, you guys, if you pay attention to this, I do this inside our agency group here. Like, a lot of my posts begin with, I'm not saying 100%, but they begin with a symptom that people are experiencing, like, my Facebook ad account just got banned. Or my client says the leads are trash. Because I know that's front of mind, blah, blah, blah. I know it's related to the fact that you're working on your front end, but like, people generally don't understand their deeper issue. They don't understand they have a Google reviews issue. So if you show up and say like, a plane ride would solve everything, they're like, I don't see how, right? You got to say, I'm going to get you out of the office. I'm going to get you to the meetings. I'm going to get you to the beach. Just hop on this plane and let's fucking go, right? So you need messaging that's closer to that point, and you'll find outreach works better when it's about things they care about, not the hammer and the plane ride, which is what you care about. Because once they say yes to you, you have to think about reviews and systems and processes. And so for you, that's like a very front of mind thing. But for them, it's almost a non-existent thing at all in their world. The other thing too is to understand when you do outreach and you fail, the beautiful thing is like, it's probably a big deal in your world because you send a message and you're trying to drum up business. But in their reality, it's barely a blip in the radar. Like, I don't even like once like I get pitched a lot for like my YouTube channel and stuff like that, and some of the other stuff we do, and like once I close it, like, or even if I read it in the first place, like I've forgotten about it 30 seconds later. Sorry. So the beautiful thing is you can come in and you can like do more with that. Chris says, love this, so simple. Question, Frankie. Who do you target when approaching an association deal source? Are you aiming at the leader or for someone in their marketing department? Curious who the best deal sender position is in the organization versus the person you would reach out in order to create a positive affiliation. Chris, when we're going after deal sources, I always go after number one in the company first. And then if they mention people by name, oh, you should meet so-and-so, then I'll friend those people. But I usually have found, like, I just go straight to the top, whoever that is. President, CEO. And the beautiful thing is, by the way, and again, I've mentioned, I'm going to talk more about this in the next few days, but people don't understand when you get bigger, there's like bigger challenges. Like I know like an association I work with in the legal industry, they're constantly putting on events and webinars, and they had to figure out how to promote stuff and who's going to send the email and lining up dates and schedules and blah, blah, blah. And like all of that is complex and it's a lot of work. And they don't always have people to manage it. So when you show up and just help them with shit, like you're a ray of sunshine, they will happily introduce you to people and sing your praises from a mountaintop if you just do like cool shit for them. So having said that, like that's our process. Like find the CEO. And the other thing that we're thinking about, and I'm systematizing this for people in the wolf pack who just don't want to grind. The other thing I think about is, and this has like been a side effect of my kind of vulnerable post I made the other day of like, the fact that I'm just tired a lot, but this has been a big blessing, is I think about what's the biggest impact I could make for our deal source with the least amount of energy and effort for me. Meaning like I'm going to do something that's really cool for them, but like takes 2 minutes. So like for example, one of the things I did is like I noticed one of the association, they got this YouTube channel, they put out massive amounts of shit, and they don't optimize a single fucking title or thumbnail. So I went on Canva. For me to make a Canva template, a YouTube thumbnail takes 90 fucking seconds. It's like it's a free template, blah, 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 put their picture in, blah, blah, blah. Takes me 90 seconds. I sent it to them and say, this is what your thumbnails need to look like, and I built you this template so you can make all of them like that, and I wrote you a process, whoever builds them for you can make 1,000 more like this. Now that's super valuable, but took me 2 minutes to make, right? So that's what we're focused on with our deal source. It's so counterintuitive because everybody else is writing messages that basically equates to buy my shit. And I'm saying like, hey, I want to know you. And as proof that I want to know you, I noticed you had this specific challenge, and so I did some cool shit for you. And almost always they're busy and they're successful, so they don't even always respond to the first message. So then I go, hey, I thought of something else for you, and I just did this. And like usually after you do that 2-3 times, they're like, okay, who are you and why are you doing this stuff for me? And you just can be honest and say like, hey, you run the industry association of all the people I want to know, so I'm just doing cool shit for you because I want to get to know you and help you, and I figure what better way to trust me than just actually helping you. So that's our strategy. And inevitably it creates reciprocity when you do shit for other people. They feel like they owe you. So Cialdini talks about this in one of his books. They did a study where they were at an art gallery and they were trying to raise money. And so they did variation one of the study. They went for like months and months, and they had a guy go around and they asked people, Would you like to donate to the art gallery? And I forget what percentage of people did it and how much money they gave. But let's say 10% of people gave $10. So 1 out of 10 people said, sure, here's $10. Then they did a variation of the study where this time the person doing the asking, about an hour before, they would go to the vending machine and they would get an extra Coca-Cola and they'd say, hey, I got an extra Coca-Cola. I figured you could, you would enjoy that. Here you go. Here's just one on me. Then that same person would come back an hour later and ask them to donate to the art gallery after they had done something for them. And they found, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was twice as many people donated, and they donated on average twice as much money. So like if they gave 10% and $10, now they're given 20% of people are given $20. So they like literally 4x their response. So we're essentially just doing that is before we're asking anything from them, we're doing stuff that benefits them and helps their, like, and it's very obvious if you like, you know, using an industry association. You click on their website, like you can tell in 5 minutes what they're trying to do. They're trying to get members. They're trying to sell events. They're trying to get people to watch their podcast and all that kind of stuff, right? So we just help them do that. And it's amazing because we're not mass blasting outreach, we can spend 2-3 minutes and do something helpful for them. And knowing that like our business is going to be on the back end. I always call this playing chess when everyone else is playing checkers, because the idea is everybody's looking for the tactic. What's the message I'm going to mass blast everybody that's going to get me the business? And I find it's much better to like, who do I want to most know in the industry that has like all the people I want to know? They've been meeting them for 10 years at conferences and things like that. And if they recommend me with their halo of approval, I'll have more business than I know what to do with for the next 5 years, 10 years. Like, I'm just going to do a couple extra things for them, and I'm going to do it in a way where it's energy efficient for me, meaning like I only have to do a little bit, but it's super valuable for them. And that's basically our whole process in a nutshell. And I'm going to be sharing more about that in the next couple of days. But for those of you guys who are already in the mastermind, I'm building that out already so that like you guys will just have a team of people who do that for you. So you don't even have to message the people. You don't even have to create a thumbnail or whatever it is, the thing that would be most valuable. Somebody just does that for you. And then you just have to talk to the influencer when you've already helped them like 3-4 times and they're already like 8 out of 10 think you're awesome. Jay says, for those of you guys who send cold emails, do you respond to not interested emails? If so, how? I do. I respond to not interested, but not in the way people think. I don't continue pushing a sale, because usually if they say not interested, you're not going to turn them around. But I find the people who actually do, the hardest part of outreach, by the way, is often when you get ghosted, you don't even know where you're missing the mark, because you don't have feedback to tell you like where you're screwing up. So what I typically do is I write those people and I say, thank you for being the one motherfucker who's honest with me. Can I ask you something? Like, I ain't gonna try and sell you or anything like that, but just tell me like why this isn't a fit for you and why you wouldn't buy this and why you wouldn't be interested, because your opinion means a lot to me and you're just the only one who'll be honest. And if you do that, they'll usually tell you what's broken about your offer and how to fix it. Like, you know, we were doing this with Hetty, who might still be here, and I remember like one of the things the real estate agent said to him is like, oh, I don't need any more like buyer listings, but or I don't need any more buyers. What I need are sellers and listings, right? And so they tell you like, I wouldn't pay for this, but I would pay for that, right? And then you know how to fix your messaging and fix your offer and fix your deliverable just from that one. So sometimes the biggest blessing can come from people who give you the harshest fuck off, I'm not interested, I'd never buy your shit kind of messaging. And like use it is my point. Alex says, what's your go-to framework for the objection? It's too expensive. Okay, so I'll tell you, Alex, my approach on this has dramatically changed over the years. Okay, so I used to learn all these objection handling scripts, and one of them would be like, you agree with the prospects, you say, I totally agree with that, Mr. Prospect, it is very expensive. And then you say, can you elaborate on what that means for you? Like, why is it too expensive? And then they tell you, and then you say, to tell you the truth, here's the reason why it's not too expensive, and you reframe their point of view. But what I've found is, I read an awesome book called Upstream, and I'll save you guys from reading the book, but they tell a story in the book that says, imagine, for example, that there's two guys, and they're sitting by a riverbed, and all of a sudden a little girl goes, help me, I'm drowning, and she's floating by in the river. And what happens in the story in the book is the two guys jump in the water and they go rescue the little girl. Another 2 minutes go by and another little girl goes, help me, I'm drowning. And they jump in and they grab the little girl and they rescue her. Another 2 minutes go by and a little girl goes by and she goes, help me, I'm drowning. But only one of the guys jumps in the water. And as he does, he like turns back to his buddy like, where the fuck are you going? And he says, well, I'm going up the river to see who's throwing the little girls in the water, right? Because I'm going to stop it at the source. So this is what I want you guys to understand. When you get that it's too expensive or really any objection at all, it has happened. The actual issue has happened earlier in the sequence. And so I'll tell you how I diagnose this. In most times, like, I find if they have objections, it's going to be found in your plan. So what I do is like this would be my plan to help you solve this problem, Mr. Prospect, or whatever. And I go, what do you think of that plan? And if they buy into the plan, meaning they go like, that's exactly what I need, like how soon can we get started? They'll buy whatever you're selling after. But if they go, well, that sounds like Facebook ads that I tried before that didn't work. Then you have to go, what do you mean? What did you do with Facebook? And you have to get into the details and see where what you're doing is different. Or I tried SEO before, it didn't work for me. Well, what did you do? Who did you hire? What did they say? What did they do? Like, you have to get into the details of why you're different. And so what happens is, if you diagnose that earlier in the sequence, you just won't have objections later. Almost always people actually hit on objections, don't realize it, and keep going, and then it shows up at the moment of the credit card. But I'll tell you, 90% of our sales right now are zero objections, zero conversation. We just present the money and go because we know how to deal with those before they come up. So I would find for years, like a lot of lawyers were really risk averse, and I came out with this new thing. I thought it was really cool. We were doing Facebook ads before anyone else, and at least anyone else that I knew. And the problem was the lawyers would constantly say on the call, this all sounds good, but like, can you give me the name of like 3 other lawyers you've done this before? And I had nobody, so I couldn't give them anybody. And I noticed like the objection was happening earlier. So I started getting testimonials of people who had sales calls with me and just like, hey, was this a good call? And they said, yes. And now tell me why it was a good call. And I would record those. And I built a page of all these other lawyers saying like, this was a good call. And I started showing people. And what happened is, and then also like when we'd get in conversation, they'd say, hey, I'm thinking of, doing blah, blah, blah. And I'd say, oh, you totally remind me of Cole from Minnesota. He was working on something really similar to you. And what I found is by bringing up that objection earlier, it just wasn't there at the end, and they would just, they were just credit cards. So when you guys are dealing with objections, it's happening earlier. So the question you should ask yourself is like where they're objecting to you, and almost always it's in the plan stage if you want to save yourself a bunch of time and headaches. Keith says, Facebook versus YouTube paid ads. Anyone have strong arguments for which one to focus on? They both work. So it's not an either or. It's a which one is best for you. And if you're good on video and you understand YouTube and their targeting, and I also find YouTube scales easier than Facebook. Facebook ads, you got to like constantly update and cycle, but they're easier to get off the ground. So there's pros and cons to doing both. Like we do a lot of YouTube ads, and I'll tell you the reason I do YouTube ads. 2 reasons. I find video easier. I find it easier to talk on video than to write. Reason number 1. Reason number 2 is because I'm like banned on 6 different Facebook ad accounts, and my Facebook profile is permanently banned. So I don't even try and fuck with Facebook anymore. I'm just like tired of trying to give Meta money in different forms. So like I don't run any stuff personally on our Facebook ads. We do have we run a lot of our client stuff through VAs and things like that. But as far as like running Facebook ads, I run YouTube because like YouTube's happy to take my credit card kind of situation. But having said that, like don't let anybody talk. And the other big consideration I should mention is where is your audience already? Right? Like when I first started marketing to lawyers, I went on LinkedIn because that's where they mostly were. If you're trying to get like e-commerce store owners, I would go to like Facebook groups where they have Shopify and Klaviyo and topics like that. So like the other consideration is like where's your audience? That's actually probably the single biggest determinant of where you should go. If the answer is both, do which one works better for you. But if the answer is like no, they're definitely on YouTube, then who gives a fuck about Facebook ads? Go on YouTube. So I hope that's helpful, my man. Last one we got on the docket, I don't know if you guys got any other questions, but now would be the time, is Irene says, help, I'm dealing with a nightmare client. After 2 months of ad management, 1 month of SEO, she says she's unhappy with the service, wants a refund. We optimized her ads, gave her a better Mother's Day than she had last year with 5 times ROI on her budget, and the SEO was just getting started. She's claiming I should have proof of every single technical thing we did or fixed while working on her marketing. She's not paying her ads invoice and demanding a refund for her previous invoice. Have you ever had to deal with something like this? Some things like correcting ad settings are not really possible to document, especially when it's demanding after the fact. My advice, Irene, is very, very simple, which is fire her. And I'll tell you the biggest reason people don't is because they're living in scarcity and they believe, like, I don't have enough clients already, so I have to put up with shit. I'm here to tell you, like, there were times, like, I remember in our second agency when we built up Facebook ads, we had a roster, like, in the beginning stages of, like, 20-ish clients, I want to say. And there were 3 that were, like, really unhappy with what I was doing. I lost insane amounts of sleep and stressed about those 3. And I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about the 17 who were happy and how to make our service better and blah, blah, blah. Kevin Nation says this about a coaching program, but it's equally true of an agency. He says, you know how many people it takes to ruin a coaching program? He says, one motherfucker. One motherfucker is all it takes to ruin a coaching program. Well, I'm here to tell you, all it takes is one motherfucker to ruin an agency, and it'll show up in other ways where you'll suddenly doubt your ability to service people, to provide on those. You'll doubt your ability to fulfill on it. Your sales will get weaker, and all those things. Like, the best thing you can do is just fucking let them go and cut ties in whatever way you can, and stop making yourself a doormat for people who clearly have, like, fucking mental problems. Because I find, like, there's just a certain type of person, by the way, that just blames agencies no matter what. No matter what fucking happens, everything's your fault, and they're going to call you names and berate you. This is what I found, by the way, is the other thing you'll want to look at is your expectation setting process. Because if you promise the moon and then all of a sudden whatever results you got are less than that. So I always say, like, 10% of clients are just really cool clients because that's just who they are. 10% of clients are just fucking crazy because that's who they are. And 80% of clients will go the direction your expectations set them to, like, kind of be. So that's the other thing, is use this as a chance to tighten your process. The other thing is, this is why I, like, invented first dates. People think I invented, like, first dates as an agency service because they're easier to sell, and they are. But they're actually, because if you get a crazy client, you just don't offer them a second date. Like, let's say you run it like a 4-day campaign. The client's a miserable fucking asshole and makes all these demands, and I need this and I need that. As soon as that campaign's finished, I'm like, well, see you later. Like, I just don't offer date number 2. As where there's been clients too where I've made hundreds of thousands of dollars off of clients where the second date in the marriage is actually their idea. They're like, that was such a first date. Like, how do we go steady? And you go, well, we could work together like this. So that's what you're looking for out of a first date, is protecting yourself from crazy people. Because if you have just one, that's who you're going to think about. And so my thing is just don't let them in the first place, or minimize that. Or when you do have them, cut bait as long as possible, or quick as possible. And remember, there's no fucking scarcity. Like, there's 3 million fucking lawyers. And like, most of you guys are just trying to get 100 clients or less. Usually, like, to hit your wildest income goals, most of you guys need like 20 to 40 clients. So for the most part, like, if you're dealing with a crazy motherfucker, replace them. And if you're not in a situation where you, like, literally need their paycheck today, then replace them as soon as humanly possible. Like, get that sorted within the next couple of weeks, and you'll make your life miserable. I'll tell you, for a lot of years, one of the biggest reasons I hated my agency is because I had crazy, unhappy clients, and I didn't have processes and boundaries to deal with that. And if I just cut bait with people earlier, like, it's amazing to me. I still joke that I have what I call inbox PTSD, because I had clients like that, and I would always check my email just bracing myself for what kind of pissed off asshole was there. And I still sometimes check my email expecting a pissed off asshole. We don't have any anymore, and we haven't for years and years and years. But I still, like, there's a part of me that, like, just expects a pissed off asshole in the inbox, even though they're not there. So that's my way of saying, like, just fucking let them go. Like, you wouldn't put up, business is relationships. You wouldn't put up with that in a spouse. You wouldn't put up with it with a partner. And would you act like that to a client? Because I wouldn't. Even when people, like, it's not working out, I say thank you, we part ways, I do my best. Like, I don't berate people and, you know, make them feel like shit, because I don't think there's any benefit to doing that. So if someone's trying to do that to you, fuck them, right? You can wish them well, but, like, and by the way, the best way to fire clients, in case you're wondering, is the George Costanza, the Seinfeld, it's not you, it's me. Hey, we're going a different direction. We're working on this stuff. It's not you, it's me, but we gotta let you go. It's not you, it's me. That's like the magic way, because they can't even argue it at that point, right? Like, hey, we're letting you go. It's not you, it's me. And if you have to give a refund in this case, it's worth it to have the gain back in sanity. So I hope that's helpful. Looks like that's all the questions. 54 minutes of this old man rambling. As I mentioned, for those of you guys who understand you need to grow your business, reach out to people and stuff, but don't want to do the grinding of it, the next iteration of the Wolfpack is going to be the coolest thing we've ever done, because I want it to be the only program really where we actually help you get it all built, like where you have a whole team of people that are there to support you and get you the meetings and give you fulfillment and onboarding. Like, we literally have people who can help you every step of the way, from generating leads to closing those deals, to closing with Loom videos, to onboarding, to account managers, to fulfillment partners, to managers. Like, everything you guys are trying to do, we have somebody who can help you do it. So don't do it all like crazy Han Solo. Like, if I was trying to do what I was trying to do without this much help at this stage of my life, I'd probably go absolutely crazy and not be able to do it. So if you guys are interested, you can check that out. It's the link below is beyondagencyprofits.com/Wolfpack. I haven't updated all the newest details, but it's getting spam calls. I wish my spam calls didn't interrupt my music. I don't know how to turn that off. Anyways, much love for you guys. I appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome, and may the force be with you. Guys, if you like this video, you're also going to want to grab some free bonuses, which you can get at our website, Beyond Agency Profits. To make it easy for you, I've put the links to it in the description of this video, as well as pinned in the top comment. And we've got a couple of awesome things. This is what you'll get after you sign up. You get some of our best training, how we're closing clients over Loom videos, how we sometimes sign clients that is not a misprint for under $5 US, how to demonstrate your value in like amazing ways, trainings, how to have your clients write the best copy of your life, how we're closing without phone calls, campaigns that we've generated for clients that have done over $100,000, as well as scripts you can use to get conversations going with clients in under 10 minutes. All you got to simply do is go there, enter your name and email address, and then this is what you'll see on the other side. So if that's interesting to you, make sure to click the links below, and I will see you on the other side.